Hi, I'm Celeste and welcome to Find Your Purple. Well, I had mentioned before that I grew up in a Catholic household and we had a Bible, but we never sat around as a family to read it. Now, I was familiar with a lot of the stories, I guess, growing up in a Catholic school, but I'm finding when I read the Bible, the stories aren't all quite what I thought they were. And one particular story struck me was Joseph in his multicolored coat. Now, I do remember seeing the musical play with Donny Osmond as Joseph, and I, enjoyed the story. And when I read the Bible in the spring, I saw the story. I immediately recognized it, of course, and I just read through it. This time reading it, however, something struck me that has never struck me before. Now, you have to remember, when I'm reading the Bible now, I'm reading it more as their people. These were real people doing good and bad things, giving into temptation and not, being arrogant or not. But when I looked at the story of Joseph and his brothers, it dawned on me that one of those brothers was going to be an ancestor to Jesus, many lines down the road. Now, if asked, I would have assumed it was Joseph, because it seemed like he was the better one of the bunch. Maybe Benjamin, because he was the youngest and you didn't hear much about him. But some of the others were real doozies. And yet, Joseph wasn't the one God picked to be the ancestor of Jesus. He picked Judah. If you read the story, Judah was the one that convinced his brothers not to kill Joseph and to go ahead and sell him as a slave. So he had a leadership among the brothers. He was the fourth in line. And yet, he could have saved Joseph at that time. He could have just said, let's call this off, let's take him home. But he didn't. Now, he let Joseph be sold as a slave, and then Joseph ultimately was in prison, and then he rose the ranks up to the second in command to Pharaoh, because of his ability to interpret dreams, and he ultimately saved Egypt from the famine and saved his family. So what started out for the bad, God turned into something good. But it just struck me this time, and I don't know why it jumped out at me this time, but Judah was the one that God chose to be in the ancestral line of Jesus. The country of Judah was named for Judah. The Jewish people were named for Judah. So it was not what you expect, which happens a lot in the Bible. When you look through the genealogy, and now that I'm familiar with some of the stories, it's interesting who is in the direct line for Jesus. It's not the ones you would have picked out necessarily, because again, why not pick Joseph? Why Judah? So God had a plan all along, and I just am finding, as again, in the second read through, I'm seeing things I didn't see in the first read through of the Bible. I'm sure down the road I'll learn more, and as I take Bible courses or whatever, I'll understand more of the symbolism and the nuances and the crossovers and foreshadowing. But it's definitely not a simple book. And it's not just a story. It's not just a history. It's alive, as they say. And it's definitely an intriguing read. So, as I've said from the beginning, if you're tempted at all, and if you're a Christian, you really, really should read the Bible. It fills in a lot of the gaps of things that you didn't know, and it points out a lot of things that you thought you knew, but you didn't. So that's it for today. As always, grab your cup of tea, sit back, and let's start sharing. Until next time, bye-bye.